Welcome to another episode of Season 2 of the Panjwai podcast. As always, you can find our episodes on all podcast platforms, as well as YouTube and Facebook for the video episodes. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button on your platform of choice, and if you enjoy what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a nice 5-star review.
If you want to support the podcast financially, we've set up a few ways for you to do so this season. You can become a patron by hopping over to patreon.com/thepanjwai and sign up for a small monthly donation. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can find us on Venmo at the Panjwai Podcast. And last but not least, we've got a small selection of merchandise in our store. So if you head over to thepanjwaipodcast.com and click on the store tab, you'll see stickers and other merchandise, and who knows what might come down the pipeline. So remember, on all three platforms, that's the Panjwai Podcast, Panjwai Podcast. Thank you.
Timothy McVeigh was a highly decorated Bradley gunner.
Really? In
Gulf War.
Kuwait. Oh,
Wow.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Isn't it? It's funny he made that connection and that how
Yeah.
detached it made him.
Yeah.
Because he
it's
commented
very-
on the same thing in his interviews.
It's a very detached way to kill somebody.
No, I'm a little disappointed because we all have Matt V's now, and they all have the crow system on it. I was like, it's no
Yeah.
fun. I'd like to stick my head up on the top and freaking
Physically
shoot.
get down behind the...
I agree. I think it's a more enjoyable way to fire the weapon.
Yeah.
However, after seeing how many MATVs or MRAPs flipped over by IEDs and
Yeah.
the stories I've heard of gunners not doing well in those situations, I'm okay with the
Yeah.
crow.
It's part of
Best
the
part of the crow is the FLIR, you know. Like,
Best part of the
that's-
crow is the
yeah.
auto scan. Let's be real.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't even know
Roger,
how
I'm
to use
definitely
the
not
damn
taking a
thing.
nap back here.
All right, everybody, combat. Lock the doors. Right. Okay, we're gonna take turns sleeping. Whole vehicle's racked out.
Dang. Auto scan.
Well, speaking of explosives and IEDs, we're here with Master Sergeant
Yes.
Russ Ho of EOD fame. We knew Russ as Staff Sergeant Russ Ho
Mhm.
at COP Sperwan Ghar in 2012, and Russ led a small 3-man team of EOD technicians that worked with us at Sperwan Ghar. But previous to that, they actually worked in a different part of the country. So, Russ, thank you for joining us on the Panjwai podcast. And could you give us a little bit about your background, how you came to become an EOD technician, and how you ended up at Sperwan Ghar?
Oh, wow. So, well, I guess I can thank my recruiter for becoming EOD because I went to go sign up and they're like, hey, this EOD thing you qualify for, and supposedly it's a pretty cool job. I was like, what is it? And they show you like this little 5-minute video of some dudes blowing stuff up and driving robots and running around in a bomb suit. So like, that looks kind of cool. And
Nice.
let's see. Other than that, I didn't really know anything about it. And then I called. They're like, yeah, it's basically like an army version of the bomb squad. Like, huh? And I had an uncle actually who was a bomb tech for the Honolulu Police Department, and he's like, dude, you should do it. You should totally do it. You get like the best training, you know. So there I did. Signed up, did it, and then so I don't know if you guys know EOD school is about a year long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a little short of a year long, but most people take about a year because nobody goes straight through without failing any section. So, went through EOD school, graduated, got assigned to JBLM showed up in 2008 with the 787th EOD company. 2009, went to Iraq, spent some time, 6 months in Baghdad. Came back, and then in 2012 we headed off to Afghanistan with the same company.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And originally, you weren't even in Panjwai. You were
No.
Actually, you weren't even in Kandahar to start, were you?
So our battalion and headquarters was in Kandahar, and then the teams actually they just disperse once they get in country. teams just go all over the place.
Right.
So we ended up going on the very northeastern edge of RC South.
Okay.
This little place called Shawjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So we were up there for the first 8 months. Yeah. So some elevation. We're sitting about 6,000 feet elevation. Kind of in a valley, and there's a Tarnak River that ran through. There was a main land feature. So.
And what was your deployment like in that area in terms of the IED threat and what you guys were doing out there?
Yeah, so that was kind of a real, I like to say, conventional EOD deployment on that part. So we didn't support. I mean, we supported Romanians. There's a Romanian battalion there that we supported, but we basically supported the area, not necessarily any one unit. And so we sat on that fob bullard was what it was called. And then we were like basically like firefighters. You just sit there until a 9-line comes, and then a runner comes and gets us, and then we, by regulation, we have like 30 minutes to be out the door. So
a lot more like the Iraq deployment in that
yes,
regard. That was like my experience with EOD previous to Sperwan Ghar was that, suspected IED, stop, call it up. Usually we'd be 30 clicks from the fob, so it took a while for him to get there, and so it's a long process.
Yeah, so there's a unit will find an IED, or there might be an IED strike, and they'll call up a 9-line for a pulse blast, and then that call has to go up through their chain of command, jump over to where the Romanians were, then the Romanians have to get it to us, and then from there we roll out. So it can be a little bit of a process. But I know that's one of the big things that everybody says, like, oh, waited for 4 hours for EOD to show up. But we were always, by the time we got the 9-line and we're rolling out the gate, typically it was like 15 to 20 minutes. But I think it's the whole process of how the information gets conveyed across commands.
Nothing happens quickly in the military.
Yeah. Did you guys, did you do any like route clearance stuff in Shawjoy? I mean, because I know in Iraq we did a lot of route clearance.
Yeah, I was fortunate for EOD. That's like the one job nobody likes to do, because you just go like 5 miles an hour and you sit there and wait. And then engineers usually use their Buffalo to just move things around. They're like, oh, it's good. And so EOD just kind of sits there. And fortunately, I never had to do that. Route clearances did come through. The Romanians' main job there was to maintain freedom of movement of Highway 1. So they did multiple mounted patrols. I mean, they were basically like cops just running up and down Highway 1.
Right.
So, and they would constantly clear culverts, clear the sides, check, suspect things and stuff like that.
And for our listeners that maybe haven't heard or we haven't mentioned it too many times, Highway 1 is the number one travel route in Afghanistan. It's a gigantic ring route that goes through all the major cities of Afghanistan, west, east, north, and south. It basically encircles the mountains that are in the center of the country, and it allows freedom. I mean, you can drive on Highway 1 from Herat all the way to Kabul, or to Mazar-e Sharif, or any of those major cities to the north. So it's vastly important that road stays clear.
Right.
Hence, however many cops they had along to try to keep the IEDs and the fighting off of it. When you talk about the culverts,
right,
was that a common tactic that they were using along Route 1?
Yeah, so they would, I wouldn't say it was common, but it was used.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the most common thing was still IEDs on the side of the road, and then just camouflage by partially burying or hiding it with trash or putting it behind a bush or.
Gotcha.
So, but the culverts were big. So if they went through the hassle of putting it in a culvert, from what we've seen is anywhere between 400 and 600 pounds of explosive. So
which is just gonna vaporize.
Yeah. It destroys
most of our vehicles.
The road. And, yep. So.
Which that threat is a lot more similar, I think, what most people think of when they think of IED threats. Iraq, roadside bombs, not buried bombs, and putting them in culverts and 400 or 500-pound bombs taking out Bradleys and armored vehicles. But
Right. I think most of the IEDs, though, weren't typically targeting coalition forces. I
really,
think, because, I mean, a 30-pound charge 20 feet off the highway isn't really going to do a whole lot to a Max Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of them, the culvert ones, I think for sure were. So, because those, I think they knew they could do some damage to our vehicles, but I think that most of them were targeting A and P, and
right.
they had these security elements that escorted logistics, like local logistics stuff up and down. They were constantly getting hit too.
Right.
So,
And with the culverts, that threat is why we had the culvert denial systems,
right, the
which
CDS.
were they're essentially just like rebar grates over top of these culverts that would still allow the water to run through them, but there was never an opening big enough for them to put like any kind of sizable charge in there.
Right.
And I know we had those up and down. Yeah, right. Well, the thing is, if you're not watching it, I mean, giving somebody enough time, they'll come into it from a different angle, or they'll stuff it through, little tiny pieces at a time. But
exactly,
I know part of that strategy was A, you had to put those CDSs in, and B, you had to have reconnaissance on it, which is why we had all the blimps all over the place.
Right. Exactly. So
now you mentioned that the fight up there was a little bit of a back and forth because they were creating different kinds of charges and threats and adapting as you adapted to them.
Right. So one of the fundamentals that we learn in EOD as we were doing our train up in the road to war is we always assume the enemy's watching and they're going to change their TTPs to counter whatever we're doing. And so, I mean, I've never really quite experienced it because, like in Iraq, we would constantly be moving teams around. So, so that there was never like a set TTP that they would see us doing, because the teams would be, every few weeks a team would rotate. So in this area, I was actually there from January through August. So we were there for 8 months.
Wow.
And when you're in one area for 8 months, I think you can only kind of change things up so much.
Sure.
And so in the beginning, it's all pretty straightforward. Command wires, RC, pressure, victim operated, pretty standard stuff. And then probably about, let's see, we started getting pretty busy in March and April. That's when there's actually a lot of snow up there. So it's really cold and tons of snow. So January, February, March was actually pretty slow. And then end of March going to April is when we started getting busy. And then June was super busy. I mean, we're constantly working.
I mean, June,
and then
June's the height of fight season.
Right. And then by the time July hit, mid-July-ish, that's when we started seeing the IEDs booby trap to try and get us.
So they knew that you guys were digging them out of the ground, so they were trying to get you guys.
Yeah. So then it was like, ooh, we'd see something a little different. And like, what is this? And that's a weird wire. Why is there a wire here? It's like, oh, they got little booby trap on the main charge, so which we would catch and then deal with that. And then we'd have to go every time we got back to our shop after each mission, we'd kind of informally be like, all right, what? I mean, we'd just casually, it wasn't like a formal Army AAR, but we'd kind of like, man, that's pretty sketch, like
a kind of hot wash.
What can we do next time to make sure, we catch those? And so we were constantly having those discussions and adjusting our TTPs, and then we'd see something else they do and to try and counter what we just did. And so then so it kind of became this cat and mouse game of going back and forth. So.
And would you find these things like in the course of like pulling it out of the ground physically, or like with the robot, or like in a post-blast analysis, or?
A little bit of both. We've seen them with robots. We've blown up a robot, I think only one time, but we think that was booby trapped too when the robot got blown up. There's a couple we've seen. We were dismounted, and I saw it booby trap when I was uncovering the pressure plate.
Right.
So
that's got to stop your heart.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It really doesn't. because you're like, I got you. Yeah, I see what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
my heart rate increased when you said uncovering the pressure plate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we're not all built the same.
Shoot a Mark 19 at it and be done with it.
Yeah. No, I mean we've uncovered I don't know, dozens and dozens of pressure plates. So you kind of figure it out. You know what to expect. You kind of know what to look for. You know how to attack it. So
Right.
so we would see the pressure plate and they, oh, that's weird. Why is this wire wrapped around a pressure plate? And then they booby trap the pressure plate because they know we like to recover them.
Mm-hmm.
So but then you see that and you're like, I see what you guys are doing. So
I mean, were you ever impressed by their ingenuity? Was it ever like really clever, or was it just different?
So they're just different. So they, I think we've talked about before you've got kind of the technical, which is it's a real technical IED. So Iraq was very technical,
right?
Real sophisticated, high tech, using DTMF and all these different.
And is that an explosive?
No, it's a dual tone multifunction board that you can control it using phones. So you can program things and using push button phones and stuff.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So so they can arm, disarm, turn it on, turn it on, turn it off, or just fire it using phones.
Gotcha.
So so they had all the even like pressure plates. They had counting pressure plates. So not just the first vehicle running over it would go off. It might it'll wait for like the fourth time it gets hit before it goes off.
Oh, weird.
Or something like that. So in Afghanistan, it's much more tactical. So there was they're all pretty simple as, pressure plates, command wire, remote. But then it got real, it became more of a tactical thing. Like, how are they emplacing it? What are they trying to target? How are they trying to target you?
Right.
So one of our big things I don't know if you remember what our truck looked like, the big old Jervs. So they're actually pretty robust and can take a pretty sizable blast.
Right.
So one of the big things we train on is like, all right, we need to, if we're going to go verify that things are clear down where the IED is, it's much safer to be in a vehicle should something go off than if we walk down there.
Sure.
So we always we call it an armored recon. You walk down there or you drive down there and clear the area from the vehicle, from the safety of your vehicle. And then you drive back. Looks clear. Then you put somebody downrange. So, that's kind of ingrained in you. It's safer to be in a up armored vehicle than walking down there.
Right.
Until you're in a choke point for vehicles.
Right.
Right. So, which it didn't dawn on us at the time because you're so ingrained in it. So we got called in for an IED. It's one of those where there's, walls on both sides. It's just wide enough for our truck.
Oh, gosh.
Couldn't find it. Put a charge down there to just try to blow dirt away, see if it pops something up. Nothing popped up. So we're like, all right, armored recon, let's go drive down there, see if we can find it. So we drive down there, nothing. Turn back around, drive back, nothing. So I'm like, I guess I'm going to walk down there with my mine detector and look for it. So I'm sweeping down there, and then as I'm sweeping, I get a high metal hit, just that woo.
Uh-huh.
And right underneath where I was getting the high metal hit was our tire tracks. And so I dig a little, and there's a pressure plate. And I follow the wire, and that charge we set up just so happened to separate the battery.
Oh.
So we're like, well, that was kind of dumb to drive a truck down the choke point for a vehicle, vehicle choke point.
Oh, man.
So we learned, so we got back and we're like, all right, if we enter terrain like that again, the only way we're really going to find another IED is by running it over. And that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of came to the conclusion, like, all right, if it's like a vehicle choke point or channeling point or whatever, we're much more likely to find the IED using getting boots on the ground and sweeping with a mine detector than we are driving through it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward like a week, or maybe it's 2 weeks. We get called for an IED. It was on this dirt path that was the only place you could cross the river. A vehicle could cross the river.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so it kind of went down an embankment, turned, crossed the river, and came back up the embankment. Just wide enough for our vehicles to drive over.
Mm-mm.
So we take care of that one IED, and then robot looks around for any more, and he's like, "Oh, I can't see anymore." So I was like, "All right, I'm going to get out." We learned our lesson, right? All right, I'm going to get out. We ended up finding 3 more IEDs, all within like 20 feet of each other, manually. So it was like, there's no way we would have drove down there and not got hit.
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of the tactical way they do things, So they use that kind of channel.
In Sperwan Ghar, it was definitely more of a tactical thing,
Right. Yeah.
Because they use them at those choke points, they use them in the paths, they use them at high traffic areas, and they use them tactically, absolutely. Because even sometimes they would be inept or they would low orders, so they weren't like maybe the most precisely built, but they did their job. So when did you guys find out you were coming to us?
Let's see. I think so. In August, I went on R&R, and then I think
because you had a 1-year deployment.
Right. Yeah. So I think it was as soon right when I got back to Kandahar, I think, or maybe it was Zabul. My platoon leadership was in Zabul. Yeah. So we kind of reconsolidated at Zabul for R&R, and I think it was then. So it was like early August. They're like, "Oh, you're going to go to this place, Panjwai. You're going to replace another team there." I think they just said one of the teams were getting burnt out or something. They needed changed out. So I was like, all right. And then I started hearing what was going on. I was like, oh, great. And then I went home, hung out with the family for 2 weeks, did all this. And then, I get back and like, I don't know if I want to go down there.
What kind of stuff were you hearing just like about how they were using the IEDs? And
yeah, they're just high IED. Or I heard that the IEDs never really concerned me. It's just like, they're always getting to firefights and, all this and that. I was like, awesome.
It's complete opposite for us.
Yeah. Like I would have taken firefights any day over stomping around
all day, every day.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you made a good point. Like you've uncovered hundreds of pressure plates.
Yeah.
Like if that is all you have to worry about is finding bombs, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this was a problem we ran into early in deployment. The front guy has his head down in a mine hound.
Right.
His head's not up. He can't participate in a firefight if it kicks off immediately. His hand's not even on his weapon.
Right. Yeah.
So
just get down.
Stop. Drop.
Yeah. Don't roll though.
Don't roll.
Don't roll.
Just stop and drop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Slowly to a knee.
Exactly. So so it was a little different. Like, I mean, we had been in one firefight prior to that, up in where we were before.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So just some dude shot at us with a PKM while we were in a dried out riverbed with no cover. So, but it was kind of cool because the Romanians were, we were supporting Romanians, so they were we were tracing out command wire. So we were on our way back, picking up the command wire. So we're on our way back to the highway where the vehicles were. And so it was kind of cool because the Romanians had Dishkas. And so they were all providing cover fire as we were making movement back to the vehicle. So
much rather have a Dishka covering me than
shooting receiving end. Yeah.
It was pretty cool having 3 Dishkas just cover fire over your head. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. It's definitely was not an experience for us. We were fortunate that we never had run-ins with Dishkas in terms of the Taliban having them. Rumored. There's always rumors about
There's always rumors that they're moving around, but
we never.
I mean, honestly, they never had the line of sight to use a weapon like that, unless maybe they were trying to hit vehicles on Brown from way back, or not Brown, but on Hyena.
Yeah,
like from where we did throat chop. That might have been useful. They probably could have done some damage with one there. But it's literally right underneath the Masm Guard blimp. Like, there's no way they could have gone away with it. So you got to Sperwan Ghar. Obviously you did your rep with the other team, and then what were your impressions of what was going on, and how did you kind of start to integrate with the company?
Yeah, so my big thing was like, so kind of the heads up I got was like, oh, they just like to like use us and abuse us. They want us to go out all the time and blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right. I mean, we kind of hear that a lot. So because, I mean, like it's not uncommon, just like Sperwan Ghar for patrols to go out every day. You know,
Somebody's going out every day.
Yeah, somebody's going out every day, and then you've got one EOD, one EOD team supporting an infantry company, right? So
A team of 3 people.
Yeah. So you got the 3 guys rotate or trying to support the company while the platoons are rotating. Who's patrolling, who's rest, and who's on QRF. I think is how you guys did it for the most part, right?
It was patrol, mounted patrol, and QRF.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, your mounted day, like that's like when you did like the mail runs, or maybe you dropped off another platoon for a mission. That was kind of considered your
off
rest day.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the threat there was dismounted patrols, and 3 guys can only dismount patrol so many days a week.
Right.
So for me, it's like 7 days a week, I'm not, but, yeah, I mean, the team before us just kind of felt like they weren't giving a proper work rest cycle or something. So, I think when I got there, I kind of got this weird impression that I was like, oh, look, another EOD team, who are these newbies? And
Little do we know you'd been blowing up bombs in Zabul for 8 months.
Yeah. So I kind of just sat back. I don't know if you remember, I kind of sat back for a week or 2, and then I made coordinated a little time with Captain Kitching and the first sergeant to kind of just give them a little capability brief, just so their expectations and are understood. So so basically bottom line is I just kind of tell them, like, the same thing you expect out of your platoons is what I would expect you would have of us. So you wouldn't expect one platoon to dismount 6 straight days. Yeah.
Right.
Or would he? I don't know.
Depends on what's going on, I guess.
Yeah, I was say there were moments when it happened.
Yeah. So I was like, we're only one team. So we just got to be selective on which one we go out on, because we also have response. So if somebody gets called on, Route Hyena, we covered kind of that AO, where Hyena and Brown intersected, we still have to respond to that. So, but yeah,
that was what most of our experience was in the beginning of the deployment. Was we didn't take EOD out very often. It was very rare. So if we found something, this was when we hadn't adapted our tactics really yet. If we found something, we called.
Right.
And it did take 4 hours because it takes you 3 hours to walk to us.
Right. Yeah. So
we're halfway deep in the horn, but we eventually learned that was not the best use of you guys.
Yeah. So that's kind of one problem when EOD maintains like a response type posture in that environment, because 1, it takes a while to get to wherever you're at because you have to dismount there. And 2, it takes your QRF will have to escort them out. So now you're putting double the people at risk of, being out there. So when I thought we were doing it before, but I was like, it's so much easier just embed with the patrol on the missions that they're likely to find IEDs on. So, I mean, makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, and then it just turned out that all those missions where the most likely IEDs was also where the most contact was as well.
Yes, that was directly related.
Yeah. So it's funny because us Pogues, we don't get CIBs, we get these sweet little cabs, right? So we our cab was actually pretty kind of a bullshit cab.
Did you get that for that firefight in Zabul?
No.
What?
Yeah, we got it before that. So, I don't know. Funny story. You want a funny story?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we get up in Shawjoy. We get a call for an IED, and my 2 team members were specialists at the time, and they were both promotable, but the points were kind of high.
So, of course.
So a cab is worth like was worth like 5 or 10 points, promotion points. I don't remember exactly, but they were worth promotion points, and they had maxed out, everything they could, and they're working on online education and all that stuff. And so on our way out to the call, we were just kind of BSing the trucks, like, man, it'd be kind of cool to get a cab on this one. Nothing crazy though. I don't want to die or anything, but like, like we just kind of like roll over this small little anti-personnel mine that like pops a tire or something. Like something that was completely safe, but legit, like we could get a cab for it. So we were just kind of joking about it. Don't say that, and but it would be kind of cool to just get an easy one, so nobody's really at risk, but we get it.
Right.
And so we get the call. So then we get on scene, and then we, usually when we get on scene, we kind of buckle down and we get real focused on the mission. And so robots out, we disrupt the IED, collect up all the evidence, dispose of the main charge. Team member runs the robot around looking for secondaries, finds another IED. We disrupt that one, collect everything, get rid of the main charge. Then he's looking around. I can't remember if we found one more or if it was just two. Anyway, so then at some point at 2 or 3, he's like, okay, we got it all. I don't see anything. Cool. Let's go do our armored recon and just verify. So before we say anything's clear, we always go down first. Like EOD will always be the first to, if we say Highway 1 is clear, we're going to be the first to drive down it, to walk through it. We're not going to say it's clear and then hope that nothing happens as a patrol goes through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're going to be the first to go through it. So that's one of the things we do. So all right, it's all clear, nothing else. All right, let's go drive through the area, make sure it's clear. And I hear this. I was like, what was that? And I look in my rearview mirror, and I see all this dirt and dust. And then all of a sudden our radio just lights up with Romanians in their thick, it sounds like Russian accents,
Yeah.
Asking if we're okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? And we're like, yeah, we're fine. What was that? Like, did somebody shoot at us or something? I mean, it literally sounded like just a little pah.
Yeah.
And they're like, an IED went off on your back wheel. You got an IED strike on your back wheel. It's like, all right, we're coming down. We were kind of a little bit off the highway. And on a little incline. So like, all right, we're coming back down to the highway. So we come back down, get back on the road. They set up a little close perimeter around our truck. Literally, there's like a 1-inch hole in our far back left tires, which we have 6 run flat tires right on those on our truck.
Yeah.
So there's a little hole that it punctured on one of our 6 run flats, and all it did was kick up some dust, and we barely heard a poof. And then we're like, I guess we got our cab, guys.
Yeah.
Just like what we talked about.
But the joke was on you guys because you got to earn them tenfold. That's Sperwan Ghar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Though I'm going to call out. It wasn't you guys. This was before you guys got there. So I won't call them out by name. But I recall my second IED strike. The road was cleared by the robot and by the EOD techs. And they did not do their armored recon in front of us. They said it was good. And we drove 5 feet forward. Got blown up.
That's not good.
I won't name any names. It wasn't you guys, though. But we were a little bit bitter.
Oh, I would be too.
But because we knew there was one on the road, it had been called in.
Right.
So we brought everybody out and cleared the road. I was in the lead truck with Clark, Sergeant Holt, and Specialist Duke. And Holt and Clark and I had all hit IEDs before. So, like, we were good. So EOD does their thing, look for the robot. They drive it up and down the road. They don't find anything. We're like, okay, you're good, dude. You're clear. So we didn't find anything. We knew it's there. So Holt just turns around and looks at Specialist Duke. He's like, or he just looks in the back of the truck. He's like, who hasn't hit an IED yet? And Duke raised his hand. He's like, all right, this one's for you. Cranks up M&M. We drive 5 feet forward.
Jeez.
Boom. Blew the front end of the freaking Mat V off. It's like,
wow.
The best part is that big boom. I was off to the west. And I looked out my window. I was driving. Looked out my window, saw the truck enraptured in dust. It looked okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big one,
Yeah.
And then Hulk keys up. Found it.
Wow. I bet that I'm sure that team felt awful. I mean, I would totally be like, you got to take me off here.
I mean, in their
These guys
defense, I
completely
think the reason
lost
they
trust in me.
The reason they didn't find it was
literally right in front of the mine roller.
Yeah, it was right in front of the mine. Actually, it wasn't even in front of the mine roller. It was between the mine roller and our tires.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, the mine roller didn't set it off. Our tires set it off. So, like, they did clear the road in front of it. It was clear. We just had driven over it.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a little bit different. Because I remember one time there was I think it's that air assault mission we did with those Chinooks
Uh-huh.
that I did with you guys. And they were setting up a security point with the 240. I think that it was a 240 they had out there. But it was basically there's like just between two buildings, and then there's the main walkway just outside the village that the gun was going to be looking at. But right on the just out there was a linear rock formation, which we all know that's kind of the telltale sign of an IED.
mhm.
And so they're like, hey, EOD, can you clear this section? Which we typically don't clear things. That's like not our job description. We take care of things when they're found. But I mean, if it comes down to like something like that, we're like, hey, there's a good likelihood of something being found here, then typically I'll clear or check on my own because we're the best trained to detect. So, but we're going to be very deliberate and methodical, and it's going to be slow.
Right.
So like, hey, can you clear this firing point for security so we know that, if something happens, we can run around up and down this area and that it'll be clear. I was like, sure. So it wasn't a very big area. It's maybe 10 feet wide by 15 feet long or so. Kind of this all kind of ties into like making sure things are clear before letting units go through. So I'm sweeping through, and everything there was kind of low magnetic. So usually we're using GPR is our main sound signature to listen for things.
Ground penetrating radar.
Yeah. So I was getting this weird, a slight, we call it warble.
Little turkey gobble.
Turkey sound.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a.
We're going to go with turkey.
Actually, do that one more time. We'll put that in our
We'll put it in your novel. So I found a spot that had a slight turkey sound, not a real distinct one, enough to where like, let me check it. So I get my mine probe out and I probe that section, and there's nothing there. I was just finding dirt, and I think there's a rock. So there really was nothing there. And then I remember like stepping over that section because you know in your mind you're like, I checked it, but it's still kind of sketchy, right? So I step over it, and then I stepped over. I was like, if I'm going to tell these guys that it's clear, yet I'm stepping over this spot, then how confident am I that it's clear? So then I stepped back, and then I stepped on top of it. I was like, oh, we're clear. Now I'm confident these guys can walk through here without getting their legs blown off.
So, I can tell you I have used the same tactic many times. Usually when you're really, 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 really tired, and you sweep over, you hear, you're like,
it'll be much easier to just get on a medevac and go.
Best case scenario, it's not an IED. Worst case scenario, it's probably 20 pounds or it's 10 pounds or less. I'm going to lose it below the knee and I'm going home early.
Yeah.
Okay, we can continue.
sounds like a win-win to me.
My conscience is clear. Somebody else stepped on it. They were meant to.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny though, because when you're back, when you're at that point of your deployment, it's like, that's like a win-win.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So
crazy.
Unless it happens to be, one of the rare gigantic ones that are buried out there, which we'll get to here in a second, kind of comparing the difference between what we were running into in Panjwai versus what you were running into out north. But that's actually a great transition into that topic.
I was going to say, this is their chance too.
There you go. Now, as we've mentioned many times, I mean, I'd say probably the average size of the IEDs that we ran into or that were detonated under guys' feet was probably between 5 and 10 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
How did that compare to what the size of charges you were running into before you came to Sperwan Ghar?
Yeah. So up in Shajoi, majority of the targets were those ANAs and Ranger trucks.
Right.
And so a 5-10 pound charge will probably disable one, but that's probably about it. I might bust an axle or blow a tire off, but that's about it. And so everything there was they used 20-liter jugs, those yellow, we call them YPOCs, yellow plastic. Man, I can't remember.
Jugs.
Palm oil.
Yeah, palm oil. Yeah, palm oil jugs. Yeah. I was like, what the heck were those called again? So they used 20-liter ones, which we estimated if you filled it, you could fit about 50 pounds of explosives in it.
Whew.
So most of the charges we ran were 50 pounds. They were all 20-liter jugs. So we assume 50 pounds for each jug.
Okay.
And so, and we always ran, there were at least one jug in the ground. So
and what would that do to like a Ford Ranger or something similar?
Oh, it'll almost tear that thing in half.
Yeah.
So we've done post blast where the occupants were destroyed. It's pretty gnarly.
And was it the same kind of explosives that they were using down in Panjwai? It was all HME ammonium nitrate stuff, or were they have some off the shelf stuff?
So no, it's all HME stuff. So actually, most of the stuff in Panjwai was not ammonium based.
Oh,
really?
So
really?
Yeah. So because you remember it was kind of that black. You remember seeing them in those mason jars? Did you see them?
I always remember seeing the white stuff that was drying out on like the tarps and stuff.
Okay, so most of the ones down south were potassium chlorate.
Really?
Yeah. So and then they'll put in like a oil mixture or something in it, which would give it that black color. So and then up north was the ammonium nitrate stuff.
Oh.
So
I had no idea.
Learned something new.
Yeah.
And was that because of the ease of manufacture, or was it was easier for them to get it up north, or?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if whatever supply runs they got going on is
right.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't want to tell half of our listeners how to build these things.
But,
we don't want to go too far down into the weeds. But I mean, it's no secret. Everyone knows ammonium nitrate is inherently unstable and explosive. It doesn't require any modification, really.
Right.
You can make it more potent. There's ways to do that, but that in Beirut last year, that was just stockpiles of ammonium nitrate fertilizer took out half of the city.
Right.
So it's no secret that it's unstable and you can blow it up. So and you can buy it. You just buy the stuff.
You sure can.
I know the stuff that they were making in Panjwai, they were like making it in their backyards, cooking it in the sun, and doing all kinds of crazy, white stuff.
I think some of them was ammonium nitrate, but there's a lot of potassium chlorate down there. So
when you guys got there, and other than the up tempo and like going out on a lot of patrols, like what was the biggest shift for you in terms of your mission? Like the biggest challenge for you guys coming from a different kind of fight?
I think a lot of it was trying to figure out how to integrate with patrols.
Mm-hmm.
So and then trying to figure out what to go out on, because even though we were in Afghanistan for a long time, that it was a new area for us, and then each area is vastly different in threats and terrain and all that stuff. So we were new guys to the area, but adjusting, we did do a lot of dismount before, so like our kits and everything, we were all pretty familiar with dismount, but just trying to integrate, figuring out like, hey, where's your patrol going tomorrow? What's the threats there? Trying to learn like, which ones we need to go on. So and that was just basically after about 2 weeks, nobody came to us for anything.
Right.
And so I started going to the PLs after the bubs, the evening meetings. And it's like, hey, you guys are going there. What's that threat like? Would you like us to go out with you guys? And they'll be like, oh no, this one's pretty low key. Nothing ever really happens here. And then the next day I do the same thing. Like, oh yeah, we typically take contact here, and normally we do see IEDs in these areas. So yeah, sure. Why don't you come along? So
yeah.
So then I started kind of jumping on, and then the big thing was adjusting to work with the actual infantry guys. I did not realize all the shenanigans you have to go through to go out on a patrol.
Well, that's what happens when you share the same entry requirements as an Army cook.
Yeah. So I'm going to put a little plug here for EOD here. If you want to do infantry things, but not do the dumb infantry things, come EOD.
Or be a man and go 18X.
There you go.
No,
but that's
I don't know
hard,
anybody
too.
that's been unhappy with the decision to go EOD. I've never met an unhappy EOD.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know,
So,
so had a good quality of life.
Yeah, we normally do. But so when we were up at Bullard, we supported Romanians, which the Romanians didn't. I mean, they're a whole different country. So
Sure, yeah.
we did our thing, they did their thing, and then we'd meet up for missions. You know, because we ran response, all our gear was always, as soon as we get back, everything's reset, everything's PMCS'd again, because we could be rolling it out in 20 minutes or the next day. You know, we don't know. So weapons wiped down, relubed, all the gears put back. You know, used batteries get pulled off, new batteries put on. You know, just the whole thing goes through. I mean, we had a whole system down.
Right.
And so, you know, whenever the Romanians needed us, we just rolled it. You know, we're, like I said, 15 minutes from receiving the 9 line, we were at the gate ready to roll.
Right.
And most of that time was my team member always having bubble guts and having to run to the bathroom before we rolled out.
Get the nervous poos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. Like, hurry up.
Well, you always go because even like you're like, if I got 5 minutes, I'm going to go just in case. Because the worst thing ever is realizing you have to go.
Yeah.
And you're already gone.
Exactly. That's another. You just made me. You keep bringing up all these funny stories because.
Tell them, man. That's what we're here for.
Because we're on an IED call on Highway 1, and in front of us, so we had a cordon set about 150 meters to either side of the IED, and it was like we just ate breakfast and then we get the 9 line, and we just roll out. So I always have my coffee mug. I'm drinking coffee in the truck, you know, going in my head, all the possibilities, where we're going, what we've seen, you know, just kind of going through everything. And then we get out to on scene, you know, a robot goes down, it starts searching, finds IE, and then next you know my stomach just I was like, oh shit. And then it was one of those like, I can't hold this anymore. I'm either gonna crap myself or I'm gonna have to get out. And so I was like, I ain't crapping myself. So I was like, you know what? I'm an EOD tech. I can go clear an area for me to go crap. So I called the Romanian, you know, Romanians are inner security. So I called them. I was like, hey, I need like 3 dismounts. And like, okay, I'll meet you in the back of your truck. So I get out, go to the back of my truck. I was like, dude, I really got to crap. So follow me here, follow the same path I take, and then just give me overhead cover while I take a shit real quick. Like, all right, you got it. So there I am on the side of Highway 1 taking my tactical shit. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
That's
So
great.
the fabled combat dump.
The combat dump.
Yep. Nothing like clearing your area before actually going in and, you know.
Well, it brings such a confidence to yourself. It's like, you know what? At this point, I am 100% good to go.
Yeah.
You know, every being of me is ready to fight right now.
Yeah.
Well, the combat dump had this magical ability to just bring on the firefights. It's like if you want guaranteed to take contact, somebody needs to take a dump.
Unbutton your pants. Somebody will start shooting at you.
As soon as the pants goes down, right?
Pants come down, bullets start flying.
Yeah, it's like the Taliban's had an ear out. Like,
No, right. that didn't happen.
Or an eye out.
Yeah.
It was pretty uneventful. It was pretty uneventful. Then just got back in the truck and continued on, and we rolled out. But it was pretty funny.
That is pretty good. It was pretty universal. If people were taking a bathroom break in Panjwai, it was coming most of the time.
Yes.
Most of the time.
But
no, you make a good point. I mean, you guys were always ready to roll. We were never waiting. If we were going on patrol with you, we were never waiting on you. We were waiting on the infantry.
Yes. So that, I mean, that was one of the big, going back to what we were talking about, the adjustments was, so the Romanians didn't care. All they cared about was like, were we ready to go when we said we'd be ready? And we always were. So it's no big deal. And the other people we supported was there's an ODA in the area. And so we've done a few missions with them, and they were the same way. They're like, we do a pre-mission brief, and they'll be like, this is our mission, this is what we're doing. EOD, this is what we want from you. And I'd be like, all right, here's the threats in the area. Here's what we can do. Here's what we cannot do. And, and then here's our link up time. Here's our SP time. I was like, cool. And that was it. And then we showed up at 07, did comms check with them. Comms good. And we rolled out. Yeah. And then I get over to infantry land.
11 Bravo.
Yeah. So then I was like, hey, you want us to go? I was like, yeah. So I remember, I can't remember which PL it was, but I remember our first one. I was like, first time, the PL was like, yeah, we'd like you guys to come out. So I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, yeah, so at 1900 or whatever time it was, we're doing, I guess, rock drills? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do the rock drill. I was like, what the hell's a rock drill? I don't know what a rock drill is. So like, all right, I'll be there. And then so I show up, and it just basically it just goes over everything that they just went over in the brief, but over like
Over a sand table.
Over a sand table.
Lego land.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh,
Stupidity.
okay, I already got this in my notebook. I already knew this, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, all right, we need to meet at 05 tomorrow morning. I was like, damn, that's early, and you're leaving at 7? Like, what? I was like, what? That means I gotta get up at like 4 to make my coffee, to warm up some breakfast. I was like, that's ridiculous. So then I was like, this is our first time, right? So I was like, all right. So we show up at 5, and we're all ready to go. Because like in our shop, in our little EOD shop, we had all our kit hung up. Everything was ready to, it's like literally like a fire station.
Right.
We threw our stuff on. One person did this, one person did this, the third person did this, and then we were ready to go. So that's basically what we did. We just threw our stuff on, walked out, and at like 4:55, we were standing there. And then you guys start rolling in, and then they start checking their underwear and checking their this and that. I was like, what the heck is going on?
How many bolts do you have in that magazine?
Yeah, because we are like we have our checks where like before we roll out, we each look at each other. I look at somebody, all right, turn around, all right, you look good. Somebody looks at me, then the other person looks at the other guy. They're like, all right, we're all good, let's go. Yeah, and some.
Honestly, man, that stems from a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One, it's just like the infantry has some ingrained stupidity, which drove me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff about the job, I absolutely loathed. But another thing is like you guys were such a small unit.
Yeah, exactly.
So like,
there's three of us.
If you had a dumbass that came on board, you could chip him out and get somebody that was squared away in there.
Or he wouldn't be a dumbass for very long. He'll
Right,
or he might still be, but he'll be really strong.
Yeah. And then like you as a staff sergeant can manage the one dumbass, and then your other two guys, whatever, we'd be squared away.
Yeah.
In our case, if you got a platoon of 20 and there's 4 dumbasses, or let's that's being too generous. Let's say there's 8 dumbasses,
right?
Then you've got a lot of dumbassery to cover down on. But the infantry, the problem in the infantry is that the NCO Corps can't figure out when to differentiate between the dumbasses and the guys that are squared away. So they treat everybody like a fucking dumbass. So you're subjected to that stupid shit all the time. Even you're like, I fucking know. I've got all my stuff. Like, I'm ready to go. I have my special
underwear on. Jeez.
Yeah, I got my underwear on. I don't need you reaching down my pants to make sure.
That's funny.
In some of their defense, I've seen people walk back from their mission with all their stuff. And they didn't use any of it, and they set it down, and they don't touch it. And then it comes time for inspection, and something's missing. Like it is the most mind-boggling thing that infantry privates can lose things that they don't use.
That's insane. No, I get why you do it, but it's like, but it's just one of those things that we had to adjust to because it was like, no. So then after 2 or 3 missions, then I was like, we'll see you at 6:30 if you're leaving at 7.
Right.
So, which I think after a few missions with them, you guys kind of got a little bit of more comfortable with how we worked and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I know one thing that always set us back was, we'd have like our kit, but like we would always switch. Well, who's carrying the hides, or who's carrying the mine detector, who's carrying extra batteries, who's carrying extra rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the stuff that people forgot. And when we left that stuff behind, that it had the potential to be really bad. But like Luke said, like If the guy is supposed to have the hides and he doesn't have the hides, he doesn't have the hides. The guy next to him has what he needs. It's not his fault. Go send the soldier to go get his freaking hides. Like why does this have to be, a
Mass
thing?
punishment.
Yeah.
But that's
Oh man, I could rant and rave.
Yeah.
oh man, as I say, that is another episode. that is for Panjwai Podcast Live.
Live stream.
Live stream
right.
every Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
I won't be there every Friday, but
Somebody will be there every Friday.
That's funny. Yeah, so that took a little bit of adjusting to getting used to too.
Mhm. So when you guys got down there and you started going on the patrols and stuff like that, and we started getting contact and firefights.
Mhm.
Like I feel like EOD was always ready to get in a fight. Like we always liked that about your team, especially. I feel like they were always ready to roll. Like if the shit was going down, Johnson or somebody was up just laying down Scanion.
Yeah.
So that was cool to have that.
Yeah, you guys are gunslingers. We like that about you.
Yeah, definitely.
I think our big thing was we always wanted to be increase combat power to whoever we're with.
Right.
I mean, we're 3 more guns.
Yeah.
Sure,
exactly.
we might not know tactics, but we can follow directions.
Well, we weren't even using tactics.
Yeah. If you say shoot this way, we can definitely shoot that way.
That was the easy thing about Panjwai. The only thing we could do was shoot that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then, I can't remember which platoon it was again.
probably third. If it was fucked up, it was third.
No, it was funny because we're in the middle of a firefight, right? So everybody's up shooting, we're shooting, and then the PO's like, "Hey, we need that gray putt cleared." So in my mind, in EOD world, clear means make sure there's no IEDs there. Clear that gray putt.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll go do it." So I go over there, and then but what you guys meant was clear it as in make sure there's nobody in there with a gun.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
That's funny. That's
so like I was like, yeah, I'll go clear it. So me and my team run back, then we go and clear it, which there was nobody there. And we're like, yeah, it's cleared. And like, you guys cleared? I was like, yeah, look, there's nobody there. Or there's nothing, we already swept it and everything. He's like, no, they meant to make sure that nobody was in there. I was like, oh shit, we probably totally could have gotten shot because
there's no one in there.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good thing there wasn't anybody in there then. Yeah. Oh man.
It was pretty fun. I was like,
that's a good observation. A lot of words and like phrases have so many different meanings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get lost in translation. Even
what does it mean to clear a building? What does it mean to secure a building? Like, what does it mean to we do all these things. And I actually remember one time we were leaving the wire. This is when Matt Kohler was pretty new. And he said, all right, we are RP COP Sperwan Ghar. Because that's what we said. We were SP when we left, and we were RP when we came back.
Right.
And the company commander's like, hey, LT, what does RP mean? And the lieutenant's like, he's like, just come find me in the talk. We'll talk about it. Because we use this jargon all the time. Because we just get used to saying it. But we don't actually know what it means.
Yeah.
RP is release point.
Right.
That's funny.
Which I think you're supposed to set up after.
You're supposed to set that up before.
Or an SP.
Yeah.
SP is start point. RP is release point. But release point is like before you enter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
RP is technically before you come into the security area or something like that. I can't remember. It doesn't fucking matter. What it mean? What the point was, he didn't know what it meant either.
Yeah.
He just knew it was being used all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, like I didn't know for the longest time what Charlie Mike meant. I was like, yeah, Charlie Mike.
That one always bugged me because I thought it was too corny. It was too Charlie Mike. Fucking continue mission.
Yeah. It was almost like the H word.
Yeah. No H word. Yeah.
Oh man. The integration into the infantry, the intrification.
Yeah, I mean, you guys went out on us a lot, went out with us on a lot of patrols, and like you said, obviously those high risk areas: Adam's Eye, Salam Khan, Sketcha. And you got there. You said what was like late September? Or it was late August, early September.
Right. Yep. I think it was like first week in September I got there.
Yeah, so I mean, you jumped straight into the fire at that point. We were probably at our height of casualties for the deployment. We'd hit several IEDs just before you got there.
Yeah. Everybody seemed pretty salty.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So,
But it was nice having you guys out there with us because it took a little bit of stress off, especially the clearing guys.
Yeah.
It's like we knew you weren't going to clear for us, but like we knew that if we came to something that was really sketchy, we could be like, help, and you know, and it was there, and the expertise was like, hey man, no, you're good, like fix your GPR or here's your setting. No, look, you're good now.
I remember multiple times we'd cross there'd be a footpath to cross, like a nice clear footpath. You look down to the left, and like, linear rock formation. Which side of the rock formation is the IED on?
Right.
So then they'd call us up, like, yeah, I'll clear across this.
Right.
So normally I would just use a mine probe. I think it's much more reliable. So you just get on your hands and knees and probe like a 2 foot wide section. And you go across.
That's it. That's what. When you say something like you heard about firefights and that you were like, oh man, I don't know about that. When you talk about probing IEDs, I'm just like, what the fuck?
When we first got to Sperwan Ghar, that's what they trained the lead guys to do. They trained us to do that. Like PFC Grace. Like, here you go. Here's your non-metallic probe. And there's a picture of me doing it. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Who taught you?
Like civilian contractors,
Unnamed.
maybe.
We don't throw people under the bus on the Panjwai podcast.
Well, I mean, not necessarily like who, like personally, but
it was an active
EOD
duty
guys, right?
EOD team.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Okay,
not your team, obviously.
No, yeah.
And not.
So I'm sure you guys got some decent.
We got good training, but it was a little bit far and beyond what. As the clearing guy, you needed to be worried about. As a clearing guy, you don't need to be on your hands and knees poking for IEDs. No. You need to be like, hey, I've got the mine detector. Here's a metal hit. Here's a GPR hit. We avoid it. We move on. Or we identify that and we call EOD to exploit.
To come up. Yeah.
We aren't exploiting. No. Like, there's no reason 11 Bravo should be exploiting an IED.
No. Or if there's a known high threat area that you're going to move through, then I would definitely come out and clear through that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, which we've done before.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after you guys were there for a few weeks, we got into a pretty good, at least for our platoon, I feel like we got into a pretty good rhythm with you.
Yeah.
It's like move, push, clear. If we get to that little shitty spot or we get a big hit, call up EOD, clear it, blow it, whatever. Yep. And of course, then we picked up the practice of making line charges.
Oh, no.
Which I know gave you anxiety.
Yeah, that was my pet peeve.
So. Why were you so upset with us having our own C4 and det cord and freedom to use it?
Well, I was happy you guys had fun with it.
We did. We did have fun with arts and crafts.
Yeah, everybody should have fun making obscene things with C4 because that is fun. Mm-hmm. But from the practical, from my point of view or from our point of view, it introduces too much unknowns to what's going on. So sure, you might clear something, but you also might make something that's there like hypersensitive.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where, so you just, because you're blindly putting a charge out there to clear it, you're not having much control of what effect you're going to have on it. Yeah. So same with APOBs. I never really care for APOBs. MICLICs is different because
what's that vehicle mounted one, right?
Yeah, you're putting, was it 2,000 or 2,500 pounds of explosives out there? That's a little bit different. You're like putting craters out there. So
yeah.
But like the APOBs, I wasn't a real big fan of because you throw that out there, now you got like metal all over the place. So now you just made my mine detector useless.
Yeah.
And the same with the line charges. I mean, I know you guys liked it, but I'll let you guys do your thing. Did I ever voice my opinion on it? I don't even remember. Yeah.
I think for us, it was almost like it's
like a safety blanket.
It's like a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, we just blew it up. It's okay. And then you go stepping over the wall. You're still taking your time and clearing, making sure you're not just kicking around in the dirt.
And I would say the number of times we used it to just like arbitrarily clear a path was very little. We cheated, and I'm sorry. We bypassed EOD a lot because we'd find something sketchy, be like, put a line charge on that.
Yeah.
So we were just bipping things with line
Yeah.
charges.
Yeah.
And you had reason to be concerned
Yeah.
because a select few of our line charge constructors like to put like half-pound blocks of C4 every 6 inches on the line charge. So like they set up a line charge, like 12 pounds of C4. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my biggest problem is, so if you think about how they laid it out, typically they would have like your pressure plate on the path, right? Because that's
Yeah.
where they want you to
Mhm.
step on. But then they always move the battery somewhere else,
Yes.
right? So if you lay the line charge out, what are you most likely to do? Cut off the wires to the pressure plate.
Right.
Mhm.
And so now you got these exposed wires sticking out of the ground or whatever that if they touch, now
They're gonna go.
they're gonna go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you just took out the safety of the pressure plate and just have these wires now just sitting out there going, hey, let's let the wind come and blow and go, and then and then
Okay.
it blows. So that's where I'm talking about, like, you just don't know exactly what you're
Sure.
doing with it, and you could potentially make your situation worse.
Right.
So
Or you could set off a secondary, like a massive secondary that you didn't
Yeah.
know was there.
yeah, mm-hmm.
Like trying to blow up a 5-pound IED, but it's a 50-pound IED and
Right.
causes a
Yeah.
big problem. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
or what if it's daisy chained, and then a whole
Mm.
bunch of them, which we didn't see that there, but it has been known to happen.
Once or twice we saw it
Yeah.
before you got
So,
there, but
yeah.
it was. I feel like they tried things a lot in Panjwai
Mm-hmm.
or anywhere really, and if it didn't like get them something on the first or second try, they just abandoned it.
They kind of abandoned it, like IEDs and trees and stuff like
yeah,
that.
like
Like,
using
they-
trees. They tried
Yeah.
an EFP once, and it was like pink.
Yeah.
So they didn't try the EFPs again. Daisy
Yeah.
chains, we found
Yeah.
them twice. We never saw them again.
Oh, interesting.
The only thing we saw that was actually effective, I believe, in a couple instances was like offset. So like
Mhm.
they'd step on they step on the plate, and the charge would be behind or in front of the person that stepped on
right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Command wire was. I don't know, did we
Very
ever really
low,
see
if
that?
if any.
I think
Maybe once or
Anderson's
twice.
IED was a command wire.
Yeah.
I know we in some caches we recovered wire,
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I know we didn't see any command wire while we were there working with you guys.
and that was something
So-
you saw a lot
Right.
in
Yeah.
the
So
previous AO, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
in Shawjoy, there's it was either command wire or RC. So there's a lot of both. Well, there's a lot of pressure plates too. So
Yeah. I mean, but in Panjwai it was pretty much 90% pressure plates,
Pressure
and
plates,
10%
right.
everything else, a mix of
Yeah.
everything else.
Even the RC stuff was so minimal that we stopped carrying
Yeah.
the Thor
Yeah.
on patrol.
I
you know?
think I remember talking to Captain Kitching about it because a couple of caches we started recovering a lot of transmitters for the RC stuff. So I was like, they're out here. You might want to start carrying your EC, your stuff around. So
Mhm.
And without being, again, violating OPSEC or
Yeah.
capabilities,
Yeah, that's true.
it's pretty well known that Americans carry devices that can jam,
yeah,
RC. But
yeah.
and we did
Devices
have those.
Devices that overheat when it's 112 degrees
Yeah.
outside and don't work anyways.
In our
so-
case, they didn't work.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know the Joe behind you is supposed to be fanning it?
Yeah. So a piece of cardboard. Little a canned air spraying out.
Blow
the
on it,
vents
Snuffy,
every once in a
blow.
You can add that to your novel too.
Oh
while.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
definitely,
Big time.
definitely. No, I mean, I going back to what it meant to us to have you there. It was, I think it allowed us to focus on other things and took a little bit of the stress off that front guy
Right.
to have you guys on the patrol with us.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Um,
felt like that. It seemed like there was almost like a relief when I mean, not to toot our horns or anything, but it almost felt like you guys were glad that we were there. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you guys are coming with us on this one. Cool.
Big time.
So
because we knew if we found something,
Mhm.
A, we weren't going to have to wait for you to come because you're already there.
right.
So, and B, we weren't going to have to deal with it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like if we found an IED, if we knew we
Mhm.
found an IED, previously be like, hey, well, we're going to either blow with a line charge, we're going to mark it and wait
Mhm.
for EOD, or we're going to mark it and bypass and call it in later.
Right.
And it created a
problem.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it may not be a problem that we personally had to solve ourselves,
Right.
but when you guys were there, it was like, oh, hey, EOD, IED.
Right.
Okay, cool. All right, 1 minute out. Boom. All right, Charlie Mike.
Yeah, and by that point, I mean, we were doing this now for 9 months, so we were pretty efficient at
Yeah.
Mhm.
taking care of them. So
And you were saying the IEDs in Panjwai are so much simpler than what you had been working
Right.
with before, too,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. So I mean, it seemed like over there is a lot more of combining the IEDs with small arms fire.
Yeah.
It would seem much more the tactic there.
Yeah, for sure. Which they use to varying degrees, and sometimes
Right.
they try to push us into IEDs with small arms, or sometimes
Mhm.
small arms would draw us out and
Right,
into
yeah.
an IED belt or whatever. But fortunately, I feel like for the most part, that didn't really work with us.
hmm
They would hit us. I mean, as you well know, we got hit a lot, but
Right.
or maybe ignorance was bliss for me on that one because I never noticed. It was for me, the IED was always used in combination with the threat
Right.
of fire.
Yeah.
So like they pin you down, you can't go anywhere because of the IEDs.
Right.
You shoot back and forth a little bit, birds get on station.
And
But
then they
you
all
know,
die.
'cause- yeah. Then we sit back and smoke and joke while they're getting smoked by 25 or 30 mag
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah. So
But there were a few times where like we blatantly noticed that they were drawing us in with small arms
Right.
or pushing us to an area in small arms that had IEDs in them.
yeah. So
Remember the field that they had a ring of rocks. It looked like it was designed to grab a
Hit a
helicopter.
medevac bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so where we were up in Shawjoy, it was the IED was like the offensive weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So they would lay it out in ways that you would to try and get you. Does that make you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Versus like
Yeah.
using it as a hey, let's shoot at them so they move to it, or shoot at them so they move toward this, or let's
Mhm.
use it so they can't go anywhere. They know they have to fight right there, and they
Yep.
So whereas in where we were previously, there might be 3, 4, 5 IEDs all scattered, trying to get you.
Right.
Mhm.
So, but there was no hardly, like I said, we got one firefight, and even that was, lasted a few minutes, but those dishkas went off for a while.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. Probably the Romanians were like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, those
lay it
Romanians were
waste.
nuts.
Got the Romanian cabs.
Yeah.
I
Evil
did
bastard fucking
learn
puts
throughout
up
the
with that
process of this that the Canadian Army gets nothing. They have
Oh.
no badge or ribbon or anything to signify that they've been in like a firefight or an actual combat scenario.
Engaged by the enemy.
Hmm Like the Marines have their car, the Navy has the car, we have the cab and the CIB. I don't think
Yeah.
the Air Force probably has something. They have like
Yeah,
I-
com-
they
the
have, they have
Air
a
Force-
ribbon for qualifying with their
Yeah.
weapons, so I'm sure they have one for combat.
The Air Force can wear our cabs.
Can they?
Yeah.
Oh, well then there you go.
I think so. I'm pretty sure they can.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, well then then they got something. But the Canadians don't get nothing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's like, sorry, go do your job. All right, roger that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, E.
Oh gosh, see. Sorry about that gunfight, E. Are you okay?
Hey.
We love our Canadian friends,
Yes.
Yeah.
but you do deserve a little bit of recognition.
Yeah. At least that's something to put on your chest.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, that
the-
sounds good.
The EOD guys. Now you have your own badge too, but
Right.
that's a skill badge, right? It's not a
Right.
combat
it's-
badge.
No. So everybody that graduates EOD school gets the EOD badge, or we call it a crab because it kind of looks like a crab.
Right. Yes.
crawling.
Yeah. Right.
So and then
With
there's
lightning
3
bolts.
Yes, lightning bolts and bombs in a
Yep.
wreath. Everything in the army has to have a wreath.
Yeah.
So there's 3 badges: the basic, senior, and master badge.
Gotcha. It's very similar with like pilot's wings. You have your basic pilot wings, senior, and
Oh.
master pilot.
Yeah. So, so yes, we do have our own sweet little badge.
Makes you feel special.
Yeah.
One thing that about the EOD techs and also the military working dog teams we worked with is they brought a lot to our fight. They helped us do our job, but they were targeted at a much higher rate
hmm
than I mean we were targeted all the time, but they would
Right.
deliberately try to target the dogs in the EOD teams
Right.
because they knew what you guys were out there doing.
Yes.
And we lost a few EOD techs
Mhm.
in the Panjwai area while you were there.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about those guys a little bit? I don't know if you knew them or.
Yeah. I knew both of them as Wade Bennett and Nick Reed were the two that were there. They were actually supporting, doing a soft support mission. So they were out doing special things with special people in our AO. So yeah, they both got hit. They were known IEDs, and they both got hit disrupting them. So yeah. So
which
I
means
know,
they were working on them or trying to make them safe, or
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know with Bennett's one, there was I know there was intel. I can't remember who I heard. I think it's your guys' intel guy.
Price.
That said they got intel from locals that there were like 5 IEDs in this area. In this one,
right outside the gate too, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was Adam's Eye. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were actually out there getting rid of him. So he was working on his third one of those 5 that we had got report of, and that's what got him. And then I want to say a couple days later, we went out there and then we got 2 more of them that were in that same area. So
I actually remember that mission. We were out there with you when you guys grabbed those last 2.
Yeah, one of them was behind that door to the compound or whatever, and I can't remember where the second one was. But
I thought that one was in a tree line, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
kind of like it was like kind of like a berm, and there were some trees, and there was like a canal on the other side, or some. That pops into my mind for some reason.
Yeah,
but
I don't remember, but I just remember the one in the behind the door. I was like, "Oh, this would have been bad to walk through the front door here."
Yeah,
but so thanks to Bennett, he did get 3 of them out.
Yeah.
So and then we were able to find the second 2.
Man, and that's an area where kids played there all the time.
Yeah,
like Adam's Eye was full of kids. There was a lot of civilians in Adam's Eye.
So and then Reed's one, I think I don't really remember everything the circumstances behind it, but I know that it was like really crappy terrain, real rocky, and he was trying to clear an area and stepped on something.
Now, were those two gentlemen? They were part of the same EOD company out of JBLM.
They were actually out of Yakima, the EOD company out of Yakima.
Really?
So yeah. So
interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they were out of there, but Bennett I met while we were there because he'd always come by when the ODA teams would stop onto Sperwan Ghar.
Right.
So he'd stop by and hook us up with some cool initiators and explosives that only special people get. And he's like, "Dude, you got to try this out. This is pretty cool." So, so he'd hook us up with some stuff. And then Reed, we weren't in the same EOD class, but we're like adjacent classes. So we basically went through EOD school together.
The sacrifice that those guys made means a lot to us because it was for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every IED they pulled out of the ground is one, like, I don't know if you listened to the episode about the engineers. It was the same thing for us. Every one that they pulled out of the ground, they were far more qualified to pull out of the ground than we were. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing to an even more extreme level.
Right.
Because obviously you guys have a little bit more skill and more advanced skill set in terms of that realm. But the same thing applies. I mean, when you guys pulled an IED out, it's like, I never would have seen that. I guess how many times like you guys pulled something out, you point, oh, it's right there. Like, nope, I would have walked right on it. So it meant a lot to us.
Yeah, when you get down and dirty, you really, because you see it so up close, you kind of start recognizing the little ground signs. But you bring up an interesting point, the engineers though, because there's always this kind of funny rivalry. I'm going to clear this up on the airwaves or whatever right now online. So, there's a lot of like, engineers are kind of do the same thing EOD does, and which is not true. They do have a little bit of what the capability we have are. But our big thing, one, EOD is the only people that can render safe.
Right.
So nobody else can actually render safe IEDs or UXOs. But our big thing is that because we can render safe, we can now exploit. Right. And so so we end up becoming like cops basically. So we do a whole site exploitation every time we deal with an IED. So it's, getting pictures, recovering evidence, submitting all the evidence. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that you guys probably don't see. Is all those pressure plates, we'll tuck it in our pouches and our backpacks, and we'll bring it back, and then we catalog it, X-ray it, take pictures of it, and then we send it off to the forensics lab, and then they will do the forensic processing of it.
Right.
And so they'll pull DNA. So like when you guys go and do those bats and hides,
right,
that's where the database gets built. And so if we pull an IED out and there's like tape on it and there's a fingerprint, and you guys had done bats hides on somebody, and then now they can get a match on the fingerprint. Right. And so now they can, go after the guys that are doing this.
Right.
So that's where kind of our bread and butter really come in, is being able to
actually making the device safe and taking the pieces back with you.
Yep. And then exploiting it, and not only exploiting it for forensics, but also like, hey, this is what they're doing, this is what they're using, this is the tactics they're doing, here's how they're employing it, here's what their capabilities are, here's what because we're pulling all the devices out and examining it. So
yeah, and I think that was, when we started out in the deployment and we would find IEDs, that was really, we tried really hard to do that stuff. We found an IED, let's call EOD so that they can render it safe and they can take it back. We were like, carrying pieces out in our backpacks and stuff, but I'd say probably, around June, it was like, there's too many, we can't call EOD out for every single 5-pound IED. They'll never have anything else to do.
And there's a line we draw with that too, because one of our guys, Tabor, he was over at, I think he was in Zangabad at the time, but on one patrol they ran 26 IEDs on one patrol. They just kept finding them. And so, if you're running 26 in one area and they're all this type of IED, when you're first 3 or 4 of this type, then I don't really need to be processing each one. So then there's a point where you'll just kind of start blowing them too, just because it's going to take too long.
I mean, and before we had the line charges and before we had you guys, we just had to bypass them a lot.
Yeah, because you had the Air Force.
No, our Air Force guys were good. They just had a different mission.
I like making fun of the Air Force.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a great pastime of ours.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had a mission. Our mission wasn't to clear IEDs.
Right.
Our mission was to go to this village. If we found an IED, initially we'd be like, oh my God, we found an IED, call EOD. But eventually, we're never going to reach this village if we have to call EOD from Sperwan Ghar for every one. Mm-hmm. And so we just kind of started bypassing them. Report bypass.
And part of our job too is to integrate with your mission, right? So if we can exploit, then we can exploit. If we can't, then we need your mission,
has
comes
to go
first.
on. Yeah.
So, or if it's like, ooh, I'm not going to mess with that thing, we're just going to blow it and call it good.
Right.
So there are times when we looked at things, we're like, we're not going to mess with that. Let's just
or you just look at an area like, I know there's an IED there.
Yeah.
I know it's there. It's a 4-way intersection with rocks in 3 directions. There's an IED in that intersection. Yeah. We're just going to go this way.
Yeah. How about we bound this whole area?
Let's just miss this. Yeah. And I think that was our final development in the fight against the IED, is when we weren't blowing them in place. We weren't exploiting them. We weren't even calling them up anymore. We were just like, we're not going to go through the gap on the wall. We're not going to cross the bridge. We're not going to go through the intersection. We're not going to walk the road. We're going to take the most difficult route possible. We're going to push the wall down, and we're going to go. And we're not going to find any IEDs. Yeah. And I don't think we found a single IED in the last 3 months of deployment.
They can't predict which wall you're going to push down and where on the wall you're going to push down.
Yeah, exactly. And if they did, you know what? Good for them. That was it was their day and not mine.
Yeah.
But it kind of speaks to how you like, just like the cat and mouse game you were talking about when you guys were up in that other area. I mean, we had to do the same thing. Carbon rods, no carbon rods, command wire, RC. And Mitchell like, screw it. Let's just go where they're not going to be. Flooded fields.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, except when you got like 400 pounds in a culvert under Highway 1, you can't really just bypass that.
No. That one you might have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, who me?
No, let's
So,
just drive
yeah,
around
yeah,
it.
we'll just go around. So, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely times to where you can. I mean, your mission will dictate what you got to do, but
Sure. I mean,
so
did that ever frustrate you to see us not be as willing to exploit IEDs, or was that ever?
no, I was fine with that. I mean, I really like doing IEDs. I mean, that's what I was there for, and I enjoy that, I guess. Oh, I mean,
It's weird, but okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's like anything else. It's like the challenge, right?
Sure.
It's,
Yeah.
Like playing a sport. It's like, yeah, it's hard work, but it's kind of fun because it's challenging and tests you. And
Right.
so, I mean, I've never done infantry things, so I don't know if you guys have that same kind of.
We're basically EOD, just saying.
Yeah, but we can shoot.
No, it's questionable.
Yeah,
Some of them.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I was fine with it. I mean, in the end, it's your guys' mission, and
Sure.
we're there to support it.
Yeah.
So,
We thought you did a pretty good job.
yeah, thanks.
And, you had the privilege of not only supporting us, but kind of transitioning and supporting the unit that followed us, which was Prop Company 138, also out of JBLM at the time.
Yes.
So what was it like to kind of be like this 3-man continuity on a fob when, Bennett left and we went home to Georgia, and then 138 is just like standing there like, okay, it's ours.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they really leaned on us a lot for just kind of like how things work and what villages were like, and I mean, I did my best to give them as much info as I could, but at the same time, we were there for only 3 months too.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, I was still learning the village names and stuff, but I had a good handle on TTPs they're doing, and like, hey, you probably don't want to walk through that, where that wall is broken down. We probably want to cross somewhere else.
Right.
I knew that point, and I kind of understood the whole, if you get shot at, don't be running to the nearest, easiest cover. It's
Sure.
Probably going to have an IED there. So,
which is hard. I mean, because that's
what
the
you
basis
train,
of
right?
infantry training is, return fire immediately, seek cover and concealment, attempt to get online. Like it's the first step that you take. So, it's difficult to overcome that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was good that, I mean, I'm glad that we were there, because it would have been really tough for them to kind of just all of a sudden do everything on their own. I mean, they're pretty good, but it's just nice to have that some people who bounce ideas like, hey, we're trying to do this, from your experience, what do you think? So, and then we went out. I mean, we just continued to patrol with them, just like how we did with you guys.
Right.
So we're going out quite a bit with them as well.
And I mean, when we left in early December, you only had about another month in country anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. So we redeployed in January. So we all, reconsolidated in CAF in January. Right. So we had about 3 weeks, and then my replacement came in. So then I had to work with them as well. Right. So, yeah.
And it wasn't too long after we left that 138 had a pretty bad day.
Yeah.
And
so
you guys were out there with them for that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was December 10th. So Sergeant Williams was killed on IED there. And it was just one of those, took contact in an L-shaped type ambush, machine gun fire from, I think, of the south and the west, and then pushed him. He was part of the clearing. He was the squad leader, and he was overwatching like the clearing guys. So they pushed over to some cover, and then he ended up stepping on the IED. And then it wounded 3. I think it was 3 others got wounded. So, and then an A&A got shot in the arm or something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of a mass cow. We had to clear the area. Right about the time we finished clearing the area, then the medic got there. And then so he was able to start treating. And then we pushed out to clear a landing zone for the medevac. Yeah, which actually, it was, I guess it was PJs and a helicopter with a big boom out front.
Yeah, that'd be the pararescue guys.
And they were shooting out the doors as they were landing.
Because they were taking fire as they were coming in, right?
Yes, they were. So apparently I didn't see RPGs, but they said there's RPGs firing. I don't know. But who knows?
Pretty nasty ambush. Huh?
Yeah, you're doing your own thing, and so we helped clear the landing zone for the medevac and help set up security. So I mean, yeah.
Do you remember where that was at in the AO?
It was east. It was northeast of Sperwan Ghar. I don't remember
it was a
the
nasty
town.
spot.
Yeah. It wasn't all the way out to Najat.
Oh yeah,
but it was northeast for sure.
Somewhere between Hamza and Sketcher, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Lloyd Clay.
So actually, because wasn't Najat pretty north?
Najat was pretty east, really far east.
Yeah, basically the eastern edge.
It's like directly south of the bazaar.
Or maybe where was Sketcha?
Sketcha was north.
Okay, because I remember
Sketcha was just maybe, I don't know, a click south of Hyena.
Okay, because I remember being none of the squad leaders or team leaders from the guys on patrol, from the infantry guys, were set up on that. So they were none of their leadership or NCOs were on that northern side of the HLZ, and we had just finished clearing, and so. This is a lot of these privates' first firefight, right? Yeah. And so we got security on the north side, but we were taking contact from the south. And I remember saying, I couldn't remember if it was Sketch or I think it was Sketch. It must have been Sketch.
Salam Khan was probably to the south.
Oh, it was north. Whatever was north of us, because I remember there's a bad village north of us.
Probably Sketcha. Yeah. That would make sense based on what you're describing.
Yeah,
Probably Sketcha.
So I remember saying, because they wanted to get into the fight, so they're all turning around and looking south. And I'm like,
right.
There's a fight going on, and everybody in this area knows about it. You need to keep watching north.
Right.
There's bad guys. There's a lot of bad guys north of us. So
that brings a good point. I mean, how many times did that happen where you're either by the nature of the really long formations, or when you have to set in 360-degree security? Not everybody's in contact at the same time.
Right.
So it's really hard to continue to scan your sector and pull your own security when half of your platoon is in doing their own thing. They're in a gunfight. Right. You're not.
Right. Yeah. So I remember running around, because I think I was the only staff, the highest ranking NCO there in that north side of that security. Mm-hmm. And, there's all specialists in PFC. And this was their first patrol without you guys. This was their first patrol on their own. Sure. And so I remember running around because they all wanted to get into the fight, right? It's like big firefight.
You just got there and you hear all these stories. You want to do your job.
Yeah. So, but I remember running around. I was like, you guys we're going to get screwed if you guys turn around. There's a bad village north of us. You need to keep scanning north. They got it handled down there.
Yeah.
So,
you guys were out there for a while, weren't you?
Yeah. We were out there for a while. I don't know what took so long, but I remember it was 50 minutes from the time the detonation occurred to the time helicopters arrived.
Really?
So I don't know what it was, but it was quite a while. So I don't know if because it's a hot landing zone, if it just took a while for them to find
could be
assets to get down there, or
maybe there weren't any Army assets around. That's why they had to go to the Air Force for the PJs. Because that's what happened with Clark. When Clark stepped on his IED, there was no Army medevac available because they just responded to a mass cal.
Okay, yeah, so
it could be something like that.
Yeah. And then I don't think normal medevacs will respond if you're in an active firefight as well. I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think they're supposed to, since they're unarmed.
Yeah. So, that was a pretty rough day. And then, very funny story again. Well, it's funny then, but somebody sent me a video link, maybe a year later, that those PJs got, I guess they were National Guard guys, and they all got BSM with Valor, and they were awarded by the governor of New York. I think they were from New York, that's why. Mm-hmm. So there's a video out there of them, their award ceremony, the governor pinning them. And I remember talking to them. I was like, yeah, those rat bastards, they flew in and flew out, and then, and they missed everything. They missed the contact, they missed the IED, and then we had to walk back. And then, so I mean, they did a really good job.
Sure,
I'm not going to take it, but at the time you're like, oh, bastard, what the hell? They flew in and picked up people up and left.
Yeah, does that BSMB worthy right there?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
Especially
I'm
normally.
sure they earned it, and it was pretty intense. So they came in a hot landing zone, taking fire, had to return fire so they can land. And
they had every right to say
So-
no to that mission too.
Yeah,
Put an aircraft into that situation. So
yeah. So
I'd say it's worthy, but
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna deny it, but I think it's just kind of that inter service rivalry is like,
oh,
those bastards,
100%.
They came in shooting guns and picked some people up and flew away, and they missed like 90% of what was going on.
My favorite was when it was a couple years ago, and everybody made fun of them for this. It was an AC-130 crew, and the Air Force was so proud. They're like, we're giving out, 16 air medals for valor and 2 silver stars and all this stuff to like all these Air Force guys. And it was all the people in the airplane, like at 7,000 feet. They all got awards for valor, and I was like, I mean, I'm okay with recognizing them, but like, is it valor? Is it really?
From way up
Maybe it's
there.
like an achievement medal, the Air Force achievement medal for
Just like a
doing your job a little bit better than normal.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, for being very proficient on that weapon system.
Right, right. Like the CCT on the ground that was getting shot at, I think he got like it's one below the Medal of Honor. It's like Distinguished Service Cross. He got a DSC. I was like, okay, all right. Oh, that was the thing. The pilots on the mission got DFCs. They got Distinguished Flying Crosses.
Oh, wow.
Whip for Valor. I was like, oh, come on, guys. Maybe just a regular DFC. You don't know if it needs to have a V on there.
Wow.
But the officers got DFCs, and all the enlisted got air medals with Valor.
Wow. That's wild.
It's just funny.
So-
But I mean, again, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
You did your job. It's cool. If you felt like it deserved a V, that's fine. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Like you said, the inter-service rivalry.
Yeah.
No one in the Air Force is, well, maybe some people in the Air Force are giving those guys a hard time too, but it's just the way it is.
Which, I mean, let's just be fair. At that point in the war, the Army was handing out medals like candy anyway.
Oh, God,
I feel better about showing up.
I could list off 30 bullshit Valor Awards right now. It doesn't matter. That's why that's why you should never talk about Valor Awards, because they're all questionable. Same with CIBs and cabs.
Definitely.
Yeah. You
Russ
pop
Ho
a
here
tire.
gets one for driving over a freaking shotgun shell.
Yeah. Yeah. My cab was for popping a tire, but it kicked up a lot of dust.
Right.
Well, at least you got to come down to Panjwai and really earn.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get it in. It wasn't
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
That's good.
In the end, I feel like we earned one. So
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
pretty wild down there. So
Yeah.
but we had a good time.
Having you guys there meant a lot to us.
I got to bring this one up. What was the bulldozer and knocking trees and walls down? And
Yeah.
Oh, the day
Clear.
that probably the only mechanic that I know of that earned a Bronze Star with Valor, like legit earned a Bronze Star with Valor, because he was out there by himself in a bulldozer for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ran over like
was
4
another
IEDs
war.
and took a direct hit with a RPG.
yeah,
That was
Almost
one that
took a
was
direct hit with
actually
an RPG.
yeah,
Yeah.
that had us baffled because we went out there like the bulldozer got hit. We needed to do a pulse, so because we weren't out there with you guys.
No,
So
because we were
rolled-
right off of Route Brown.
Yeah.
We were real close.
Yeah, so we went out there, and I was like baffled for a while. I was looking around, I was like, "What? IED in the tree? That doesn't make sense." And then I'm looking on the ground. I was like, "There's no ground sign," because I think it got reported as an IED strike.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And so-
because he had hit like 4 before that. Because when
Yeah.
he was knocking the walls over, the walls were
Yeah.
falling
They were
over on the
hitting
pressure
IEDs.
plates, and they were
Yeah.
knocking.
So
Getting shit
I was just like baffled, and then I think one of my team members was like, "Is that an RPG fin?" I was like, "Oh crap, you're right." And then I looked up, and then now it makes total sense. And there's like that alley. There's like an alleyway where it fired from, and then you can
Yep.
see where it hit the tree branch. And
Mhm.
there's leaves everywhere, and
Yep.
then you could see the frag pattern on the window of the bulldozer, and it's like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately, that kicked off a chain of events that led to the passing of Staff Sergeant Swindle.
Yes, I remember that.
Because that RPG did actually take that bulldozer out of commission, and then they had to recover it to replace it.
Right,
and
then
he was on the road during that process.
And then an RPG struck the
vehicle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And then the gunner got hit too, right?
The gunner lost his leg.
Yeah.
So it penetrated the armor in the side of the vehicle.
Yep. Yeah, that was a tough one. So I remember doing a evaluation on the truck, the vehicle, when it got back.
Yeah.
So I think the first sergeant was trying to tell me there was something else. I can't remember what he was trying to tell me it was.
He didn't know what he was talking about. So
yeah. Well, I think he thought it was some it was anti-armor RPG, but
right.
But I can't remember what he was trying to tell me it was.
He's probably trying to claim it was a recoilless.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, no, definitely not. And I mean, I went through all the signs with him. I was like, you see this. This is all telltale signs of RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but and then you guys brought the motor too, right?
It landed in one of the guy's laps or something like that.
Yeah,
like
somebody had the rocket motor.
Yeah, it was in the vehicle.
Yeah. So I mean, between the the explosive pattern that RPGs leave and having the motor to it.
Yeah.
It's
and the fact
awesome.
that one had just been shot at the bulldozer an hour and a half earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, before we kick this off and on a somber note, kind of a little bit sad towards the end there, but we talk about these stories and the men that gave their lives and the men that served so that they're not forgotten. So it's important that those stories get told. So there's nothing bad about telling those stories, but I don't want to end on that note. I'm going to give you a chance to do a little bit of an EOD recruiting pitch here. Because what I always thought was great about EOD, obviously what you guys did for us downrange, awesome. But you guys have a unique stateside mission,
right?
That a lot of the military doesn't even know about or even get to see. So you can tell us a little bit about the stateside mission at EOD.
Yeah. So we're, our main job is to mitigate explosive hazards, and so with these GWAT wars and stuff going on, everybody thinks of us as with IEDs. They deal with IEDs. They take care of IEDs.
Hurt Locker.
Yes, exactly.
The most accurate military movie of all time.
Yeah. If you rub the ogive on that 50 cal, it'll feed better. So, but when in actuality, like EOD school is really of that almost year long, only 1 month of it is IEDs. The rest is learning all the other types of ordnance. Right. And so UXOs is really our big thing, dealing with UXOs. And so when we're home, if you guys, you infantry bubbas go out and shoot AT4s or claymores and you go to fire that claymore and it just goes click, click, or you throw a grenade.
And you forget to take the thumb safety off.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody
First
has to go deal.
Call them.
Somebody has to go deal with that. So we'll deal with all those UXOs on post, whether it's misfired stuff or found UXOs. Military ordnance off post we deal with. So we always have a response team when we're stateside. So there's always an on duty response team that's going out and doing these things. And then we do support law enforcement, the local law enforcement with UXO stuff as well as suspect packages and IEDs and all that kind of stuff. And then we also have we call it VIP missions, where we clear the areas that president, vice president, secretary of state, all these dignitaries when they go places. It's actually military EOD that clears everything: motorcade routes, convention centers, hotels, and all that stuff. So we're always on TDY traveling to these different places. Like this last year with the elections, all the candidates had that going on. So So we are really tapped out with personnel and going all over the place to do these clearances. That's all in support of Secret Service. So
Sure.
Secret Service guy runs it, and then we support their mission.
And that's all military EOD, not just Army EOD.
Right. Yeah. So we'll run into Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, EOD techs.
Yeah.
And then we do run into the military working dogs. I think most of them are Air Force, though. I don't ever remember running into Army military working dogs on those missions.
Yeah.
There's EOD techs at the White House. Back when Trump was president, at the Trump Towers, that was a mission. So you just lived at Trump Tower for a month at a time.
I volunteer.
Yeah. So I've never had that one, but I heard it was a pretty good gig.
I can't imagine how it'd be bad.
Yeah, going down to Mar-a-Lago for whenever the President Trump went down there, there were EOD guys going down Mar-a-Lago.
Where's Joe Biden's vacation home? Let's find out. Google
it. Is it Delaware?
Oh man, I hope not. Yeah, Delaware Beach. Sorry, EOD. You just downgraded from Miami to Delaware Beach.
Yeah, no, you can go. You can dig this, and we're good.
Yeah, we're apolitical here at the Panjwai podcast, but Joe Biden, your vacation home sucks.
Yeah, we need more Trump Tower missions.
Make sure there's no bomb in the golden cased pillars or something.
Exactly.
Right.
But so I mean, not only that, I mean, like EOD is really a cool way to if you're into want to get into the special stuff, it's a good backdoor way to get because there are EOD guys that support the special units and stuff. So it's a good backdoor way to get into that kind of stuff. And then I mean, you saw how we were supporting. We go out and do infantry thing. We patrol, we shoot, we take care of IEDs. But then when we get back, you guys get to do all this crazy dumb stuff, and we go back and play video games. And
it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think what's most striking is in a time where deployments are fading. The war on terror is almost over. September 11th, 2021, supposedly. But people aren't getting a chance to do their jobs. So if you're an infantryman, if you're whatever, all you have to look forward to now is training. So if you're looking to join the military, or if you're looking for a career move and you want to actually do your job and have kind of a stateside mission, maybe EOD is a good option.
EOD's not a bad route.
Yeah. If there's anybody that's still active duty and E5 or below, it's tier 10 bonuses right now. So
and you make extra money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there's extra money too. Yeah. Demo pay, SDAP. So and then the bonuses. Cool. So.
This portion of the Panjwai podcast paid for by Army EOD Recruiting.
Yeah. Aaron Reyes, there you go.
Well, the way we always close these things out is with the guests that we have a relationship with, and I've been good friends with Russ for years, and we've known each other since 2012, obviously, but we kind of give you the floor, man. Anything that you'd like to say, anything we didn't get a chance to cover, it's your chance to say whatever you want.
I didn't even think about this. I know it's supposed to be coming up too. No, I mean, I think it was an honor to work with you guys, and for you, the Bravo 138 actually put us in for awards from that day on December 10th, and not that the award was a good award, but is the fact that I know you 11 Bravos are pretty tight, and for them to recognize us for the work we did was huge. So I just want to say thank you. I don't think I really had a chance to really thank them for that, even though that unit doesn't exist anymore, or it got moved or something.
It's in Fort Carson now.
Okay,
yeah.
But
unit still exists. Yeah.
Okay, but they to be recognized as a non-infantry guy to be awarded by the infantry unit, that was huge. And then I'm just glad that we were able to support you guys, and that we could take care of things, and all that good stuff. So
yeah, for sure. And in our minds, you were out there slinging lead with us and
Yeah.
exposed to just as much risk as we were, and like there was
Clearing grape huts.
Yeah,
I'll never call you a pogue, I promise.
Yeah, there was no other.
Yeah,
you guys were definitely a part of the.
Yeah,
were ingrained into the fabric for us.
Yeah, thank you. So I mean that's all we wanted to do was get out there and not hold you guys back. We want it to be an asset and a combat multiplier. I mean that was our main goal. So,
I'd say you nailed it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Awesome.
Cool.
So,
well, Russ, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. We know you're still on active duty, still doing the good work. And we wish you
staff weenie now. So, yeah, good time.
That's what happens. You get promoted up and out of the fun stuff.
I know, right?
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Panjwai podcast. If you liked what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. New episodes every Monday on all major podcast platforms, Facebook, and YouTube. Visit www.thepanjwaipodcast.com for more information.